Today is Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 6 p.m. and this meeting is called to order. At this time, we'd like to ask that all your electronic devices be turned off as they interfere with our recording equipment. For those of you joining us for the first time, this meeting is conducted much like a council meeting. As such, each application will include a presentation from city staff, followed by a question and answer session between staff and the board. Following staff's presentation, we'll have the applicant present their case and answer any questions. Once all the questions have been satisfied, we'll have an opportunity for anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to the application. We ask that you come forward one at a time. Please allow enough time and space for the podium to be wiped down in between speakers. And we'd also like to ask that if you're comfortable in your mask, that you remain in your mask at all times in the meeting room. If you do come to the podium to speak, please, and you feel comfortable, please remove your mask while speaking. State your name and address for the record. Sign the sign-in sheet at the podium, and please direct all your comments to the board. All right. The first item on our agenda is 2020-84. This is V20-015. This is a plat approval with variances, 0.462 acres in land lot 627. This is 1730 and 1740 Seneca Court. LaDonna Lewis is the applicant. Mr. Stobbs, you have the background, please.
Good evening. As you said, this is a plat approval with variances at 1730 and 1740 Seneca Court. Be heard tonight, and then your recommendation will go to council next week. This is the zoning map. Basically, it's 4 lots right now, and I'll get into this later on, but there's 2 houses and 4 lots. They're looking to consolidate 4 lots into 3 lots. The existing zoning is R15, and it'll remain R15. This is the subject property. This is how the lots are configured currently. The middle lot is the proposed house, so it doesn't exist. Those 2 middle lots are vacant. And then as you can see, the houses on the far ends, they are bisected by lot lines. So the applicant is looking to reconfigure these to get the lot lines sorted out and then to be able to build one house in the middle. This will be the proposed configuration. So the side lot lines are no longer over the existing houses. There's an existing drainage easement that goes down the middle of the 2 lots in the middle, and they will be reconfiguring that to move it to the side lot line. These will be the proposed building setbacks, front of 10 feet, side of 10 feet, or rear of 30 feet. Front setback reduction is basically to clear the stream buffer that runs along the back of the lot. And this is the 75-foot impervious buffer and then the 50-foot undisturbed buffer. So they will encroach the 75-foot impervious buffer, which they will mitigate that by buffer averaging, and for every square foot that they encroach, they will allot that amount of square feet for impervious, for permeable surface elsewhere. So they are requesting 2 variances, as I mentioned, the front setback from 35 to 10 feet, and then allow encroachment of the impervious surface area setback. This is the subject property and the adjacent properties. I should mention the applicant owns all those 4 lots, so they have complete ownership of all the lots. So staff is recommending approval of the plat with the variances as mentioned and the following conditions: to allow reduction of the front setback from 35 feet to 10 feet, to allow encroachment into the 75-foot impervious surface setback. 3, encroachment into the 75-foot impervious surface setback shall be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio. And 4, approval is conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan submitted. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if
So basically, we're taking 4 lots, converting it to 3 lots, and we're getting these houses that were literally built on the lot lines taken care of at the same time, getting them actual setback. Okay.
That's correct.
Any questions from any of you guys for Mr. Staubs? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Staubs. At this time, we'd like to ask if the applicants in attendance would like to come forward. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Bentley, do you have any questions for Mr. Staubs?
Encroachment to 75-foot
Hey, Keith.
setback shall be replaced at a 1-to-1
He is. We asked him to listen to the audio, but let's take a second. Guys, we have one of our board members is listening on the phone because of health reasons, okay? So we got to give him an opportunity to speak. And so there's going to be a little bit of a delay, and you guys are going to have to bear with me. This is a relatively new thing for all of us. So if you would, we'll get through this as quick as possible, okay? Thank you, Rusty. Okay, no questions for Mr. Staubs. All right. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening and thank you. Members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, city representatives, I thank you all for this opportunity. I've owned these properties for almost 20 years, and it's time to do the right thing by this extra land. So I appreciate your consideration. I've chosen a beautiful house plan using a custom home builder that does great work in the city of Smyrna. So I look forward to this new home bringing added value to the city, the cul-de-sac, the overall community, and all of its neighbors.
And you are Miss Lewis?
I am LaDonna Lewis, owner of 1730 and 1740 Seneca Court, the surrounding properties and the lots.
Thank you very much, Miss Lewis. Do we have any questions for the applicant, guys? Ladies? Okay. Thank you, Miss Lewis.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. At this time, we'd like to ask if there's anyone that'd like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to this application. All right, let the record show there's no one that would like to speak. Mr. Bentley, are there any questions, concerns for the applicant? Okay, very well. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion. Mrs. Stragan? Got a motion to approve, Mrs. Strega? Second. A second, Mr. Rice. All in favor, please vote. Please let Mr. Bentley know that we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Bentley, there is a motion to approve the request. How do you vote?
I vote in favor.
All right. Your application, Ms. Lewis, is approved 6-0. Good luck with your project. All right. The next item on our agenda is item 2020-233. This is zoning request Z20-006. This is rezoning from NS and RM10 conditional for the development of 10 single-family attached townhomes at a density of 9.3 units per acre. It's a 1.08 acres in land lot 669. This is 3302 Atlanta Road. Edge Line LLC is the applicant. Mr. Staubs, the background, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is zoning case Z20-006. Applicant is Edgeline LLC. Your recommendation will go to council next week on August 17th. Property is 3302 Atlanta Road. It's approximately 1.08 acres. It's a vacant lot, zone neighborhood shopping. Applicant is requesting to rezone it to RM10 to build 10 townhomes. It's the future land use. You can see the existing land use is medium-high density residential, and most of it surrounding it is medium-high density residential. And then across Atlanta Road is Campbell Middle School, which is public institutional. This is the proposed site plan. You'll have 3 lots that face Atlanta Road and then 7 that run along the private drive. The proposed setbacks are front setback of 40 feet, side setback of 12 feet, and rear setback of 40 feet. Staff is requesting a right-in, right-out access drive along Atlanta Road. And they provided a 26-foot access drive through the community. The staff has also requested a access drive through Villa Court. So that'll become a permanent access easement. It'll allow fire department to access and leave the property. This is a sidewalk connection that runs to Atlanta Road. And then the stormwater detention is at the rear of the property. They provided guest parking basically between the two townhome sections. Applicant is requesting the following variances: to allow a reduction of the front setback from 75 feet to 40 feet, to allow reduction of the side setback from 35 feet to 12 feet, to allow increase of impervious surface coverage from 35% to 65%, to allow increase in the row of townhome units from 6 to 7 units. A lot of this has to do with the shape of the lot and therefore, and to meet the character of vintage square townhomes that it butts. These are the proposed elevations. And then some more examples. It's a picture of the subject property and then the adjacent properties. So staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from NS to RM10 for the development of 10 single-family townhome units at a density of 9.3 units per acre with the following conditions. 1, regarding the composition of the architecture. 2, regarding protective covenants on all the lots. 3, they were required to provide 200 square feet of common area per lot. 4, screening of the detention ponds. 5, utilities will be underground. 6, that they are responsible for all traffic improvements and sidewalk. A strip of brick pavers at the entrance. 8, the development of any streets shall meet city standards. 9, no debris may be buried. 10, requiring decorative streetlights. 11, requiring compliance with the tree ordinance. 12, requiring the landscape plan to be by a registered landscape architect. 13, requiring all common areas to be sodded. The following are the special conditions regarding the setbacks. Minimum setbacks front of 40, side of 12, rear of 40. 15, each townhome building shall be limited to no more than 7 units per building. 16, regarding minimum floor area of 1,800 square feet. 17, requiring the private drive to be a minimum of 26 feet wide. 18, requiring a permanent access easement through Villas of Vinings condominium. 19, requiring fire sprinkler system for the units. 20, the rear of the townhome units shall have architectural features that delineate individual townhome units. 21, requiring a sidewalk within the development. 22, requiring water and sanitary sewer improvements. 23, regarding fire access improvements. 24, requiring the right-in, right-out access on Atlanta Road. And the last 3, requiring stormwater management. 26, all trees within the limit of disturbance shall be removed. And 27, requiring the be conditioned upon the site plan submitted with the application. And they'll be bound to elevations submitted, and then the additional stipulations agreed upon by the applicant. Is there any questions?
All right. Do we have any questions for Mr. Stobbs? Hold on. Mr. Bentley, do you have any questions for Mr. Stobbs?
Keith, do you have any questions for Joey?
No questions for Joey.
All right, real quick, Joey, Mr. Stobbs, if you could, just so we're clear, as I understand it, this is a down zoning from its current zoning, correct?
That's correct. It's currently neighborhood shopping.
Okay. And one of the variances is related to taking it from 6 units to 7 units in that building. But if the site plan is accurate as depicted in front of us, they have access to both sides of that building by virtue of the drive behind and the proposed drive.
That's correct. The fire marshal reviews all of the rezonings, and they're satisfied with this. They have sufficient access on either side to provide emergency service.
And then the last question I have is related to the setbacks seem a little bit aggressive. Are they similar in nature to what we have on the adjacent properties?
Exactly. They're consistent with Vintage Square front and side setback.
Okay. Anything else, guys? No? All right, very good. At this time, we'd like to have the applicant come forward and tell us a little bit about the plan. As soon as we get this thing cleaned up for you, Mr. Sams will let you take over the show. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, good evening. For the record, my name is Garvis Sams. I'm with the law firm of Sams, Larkin, Huff, and I was doing that reverberation on purpose, so hopefully I could obfuscate most everything else I was saying. No, thank you, Heather. Appreciate that. But I do represent Edgeline LLC, the applicant, and I have with me tonight from Edgeline Mr. Eric McConaughey and also Mr. Brandon Woods, and they have brought with them the family that has owned this property for an extended, extraordinary length of time. If you look at a piece of property, Mr. Chairman, you had a question about whether it's a down zoning or not. It is technically, it's a down zoning, with NS being a less restrictive classification than most of your other classifications that are non-residential. But not only is it a down zoning, but it's been determined over a period of time. This is zoned NS, and the development has just filled in around it. Of course, the middle school is across the street, and then you've got the two developments next door on either side of this proposed development. One is, of course, as Joey mentioned, the Villas of Vinings. This is zoned RM12, but it's at an as-built density of 18.4 units per acre. And I don't know the full story behind that, but of the two that's on either side of us, it's the older, or at least certainly it appears that. And then on the other side is Vintage Square, the more recent of the developments. This is owned in the RTD zoning district, and it is as built at a density of 12.2 units per acre. So you see we're at 9.3, so we're somewhere between the 18 plus and then the 12 plus units per acre. There really is no utility for this purpose, for this property for commercial purposes. The variances that we've requested, although appearing aggressive, really replicate what was granted for Vintage Square. And because of the size, shape, configuration of this property, topo's not bad. Hydrological circumstances, not an issue in terms of this development. But the narrowness of the property has been one of the many things that's limited it from a commercial perspective in terms of it being utilized actually for neighborhood shopping. And to be honest with you, I don't know the genesis of how it got zoned that, but it's been zoned that for literally decades. And what happens is with this property in a medium high density residential section of your future land use map, developing it in S, if that were done, would be inconsistent with the policies that you have recommended in the policies that have been accepted by the mayor and city council regarding the Atlanta Road corridor. You got a lot of applications that you see that are of an older ilk. This is one of them. This was filed on March the 13th, which just happened coincidentally to be the day that my office and I woke up and realized, hey, we've got to lock the doors, wash our hands, and change everything. So it's been continued a couple of times, and make no apologies for that. We wanted to make sure that we were on point with the city's engineer, the public works director, and of course the balance of your staff, and to make certain we'd addressed and resolved what we perceive to be as issues in the community. We think we've done that. We've, of course, established a dialogue with staff, with area residents and business owners, and also my understanding is the sellers, the owners of this property have an ownership interest in the Villas at Vinings, and Mr. McConaughey, who's here tonight, has spoken with the HOA president of Vintage. Now, there's one thing in your staff analysis that says we'll be getting sewer through the private sewer of Vintage. Our engineer is on vacation, couldn't be here tonight, but actually the sewer that traverses Vintage and ultimately our property, Vinings, or the Villas at Vinings, that's where the source for the sewer connection will be. Of course, any offsite sewer easements are our obligation. The city's not responsible for that, but I wanted to at least correct it in terms of our understanding of sewer and how we do get to that. This is it's a rezoning that your staff has recommended be approved. The price points of this, it looks like we're across a rather wide range, but we've got a rather wide demographic. We anticipate anything from empty nesters on down to double income millennials with price points set in the mid to high fours to the mid to high fives. Again, that's a lot of that's dependent on the upgrades that Edgeline plans for the site and their other experience as well. I've handled 5 rezonings in the past 4 years, 4 specifically for townhomes, and those have ranged from densities of 8.64 units per acre up to 13 units per acre. I don't think I've ever done an 18 unit per acre deal, but you can see this is right in the middle, and a lot of those were on Spring Street, Roswell Street, other parts of the city, but nevertheless it just shows the range of densities that you've established over that same period of time. You have our architectural style and composition. Frankly, someone told me last month I used the word stunning 4 times in a presentation, so I'll try not to do that, but we think this is stunning architecture. We really like the look of it. We think it's cutting edge. It's kind of cool looking. We think it blends in nicely with Vintage and the villas, so we're proud of this architectural style and composition. All these are rear-loaded towns, and as you might suspect, they're all a minimum of 26 feet in width. So when you talk about townhomes that are that nicely appointed with 4-sided architecture, then that dictates the price points in terms of your house size, but it's the upgrades that really dictate the upper end of your price points in terms of actually having these sold to the folks that are interested. There'll be this is just a small development, but there's still going to be a mandatory HOA. There'll be covenants, conditions, and restrictions. The architecture you see is the architecture you'll get. We'll have strict architectural controls on these. These are all for sale townhomes. I know you've been baited and switched a couple of times over the past couple of years, or at least the city has. These will not be a rental project. Even though Edgeline has substantial experience in running these, what we're doing, and we think it's appropriate here, is engaging the services of a third-party management company to handle the day-to-day operations of this HOA, to make sure it's properly insured, and to make certain that all the common elements of the property are upkept and maintained as well. Stormwater detention and water quality are provided on the site. That's going to be screened, obviously, from view. We do have a gated interparcel access, and this largely derived from our discussions with Tim Grubaugh in the Fire Marshal's Department, in order to make sure that we have interior accessibility and maneuverability for fire apparatus, and for that matter, public safety vehicles as well. That's going to be a gated Knox box point of entry or ingress, egress from one site to the other. It's not for our residents, and it's not for the residents of the Villas of Vinings, unless at a later time either your staff or your engineers think that that's an important component. But for right now, as a condition and a stipulation, it'll be gated for those uses only. The packet that we've handed out to you has got the latest revised site plan. Has also got a vehicular turning movement plat, which shows you that we can make the turning radii for the fire marshal's office in terms of, again, both ingress to and egress from the property, but interior maneuverability once you get inside of it. The subdivision signage is going to be very simple, ground-based monument-style signage, a small presence there near the frontage, but nevertheless in keeping with the architectural style and composition that you have seen, and be designed in accordance with the specifications and of course the imagery that you have before you this evening. One issue that is before you, and I'm not saying we're going to make a stand on that battlefield tonight, or we get heard by the mayor and council within a week, but with a 10-home subdivision, a community like this, we think that right in, right out only prohibitions can be problematic in terms of the fact that if someone's going here and they pass it on Atlanta, then they've got to make a U-turn to come back to it. So I guess it's a decision of from a marketability standpoint, we know we would prefer to have full turning movements, but from a safety perspective, I'm sure that's driving your engineer. But that's an issue we'll discuss with Mr. Moore, the city engineer, and staff as we go through the next week. Like I said, it's not an issue that we're going to battle out tonight, and maybe not even in a week. But we would prefer it be a full turning movement point of ingress and egress, particularly in view of the fact that we've got the interparcel access from a fire and public safety perspective. The way we've drafted, or I've drafted my stipulation letters, the community development director will have the latitude to make some decisions regarding moving around the interior pieces of this. He's not going to be positioned to make major modifications to increase the density, make the buildings higher, do away with buffers, but just gives Mr. Martin and his staff the authority to have the latitude during plan review to make minor modifications. This is MHDR, medium high density residential. We're below that, and we're at the mid-range, if not the lower mid-range of the two developments on either side of us. So for all those reasons, Mr. Chairman and members, we do request and respectfully request that you accept your planning staff's recommendation for approval, and you as a planning commission make that recommendation to your mayor and council tonight. So, Mr. Chairman, with that being said, my clients are here, and we can respond to any questions you may have.
All right, very well, Mr. Sams. Thank you so much for your presentation. Always very thorough.
Thanks, sir.
Any questions for the applicant, please?
Yeah, just one question. It might be better for Edgeline. Where the existing photos, where were those built?
I'm going to let my client come up and
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give him
This-
a minute.
this is
And
Eric.
Mr. Sams, keeping with our cleanliness policy, we're going to
swear him
clean
in?
that thing.
Okay.
We're going to clean that thing so that he can come up and feel comfortable. No, we're good with that. We don't.
This is Mr. Eric McConaughey, one of the principals.
Okay, very good. Just please state your name for the record, sir.
I'm Eric McConaughey. I'm a member, managing member with Edgeline LLC. The question is a tough one for me to do because our architect, Bill Tennell with TSW, we're using him on another project, his company, and find him very successful at what they do. They're very good at kind of an urban type setting, but in the suburbs. And I don't have the specific places that. We can get those for you. Get him on the phone tomorrow. He happens to be out of town right now. But he selected these because he thought they were a good representation of the quality that we wanted to provide, and we agree with him.
Okay.
While I'm here, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, you might want to hang out just a second. Any questions down here, guys? No? You guys? Real quick, before I ask my questions, Mr. Bentley, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No,
Hey, Keith, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I'd like to ask them, why don't they, or did they look at connecting their drive to the, I believe it's Vintage Square on the south part of their property? Because if they went through there, I think they could get down to that traffic light at Camel Road, I believe.
Okay, we've looked at it physically. Our civil engineer, which is Stuart McClimans with Blue Landworks, and he looked at that, and we've physically driven it many times, and we didn't feel like, first of all, their facility was designed for us to put our vehicles through their facility. So had it been all designed as a project where we were maybe phase 3, it might make sense. But for us to embark on that didn't seem to make sense. It would have been kind of torturous to get behind their units and back out. And I understand we'd be closer to the light, but I don't think we'd be at the light. So that's why we didn't go that route.
Yeah, and just Mr. Bentley, do you have any other questions?
Keith, do you have any other questions?
No.
Hey, just a couple things, and it's very easy for us, and I really stay away from getting into the design process when you guys have spent an inordinate amount of energy trying to get where we are today to give us the information so that you guys can go to work, if you will. But you know, if you're working on interparcel access, is gating it really necessary? And then, because we've got this right in, right out stipulation that is a staff recommendation, and then even though it's a small development, it's still a development that we're dumping, however many more left-hand turns, right-hand turns out there. You've got, if the kids ever go back to school full-time, you've got a school across the street. There's some other perils that are associated with it. It would, and just to echo the sentiments of Mr. Bentley, I think it makes things a lot easier for you guys if there is some more coordinated access, and whatever that looks like, I'll let you guys decide. I think it might make the whole thing a little easier, more with respect to the right in, right out, and I'm a fan of units. Seems like maybe if you didn't have an access at all on Atlanta Road, you might have another unit or so, but that's another argument for another day. I'm sure Mr. Bartlett appreciates the fact that I pointed that out. But any other questions? Or that was just a generic comment on my part. I don't expect a response, but just understanding the context of the stipulation associated with the right in, right out. That's a pretty important thing for staff at this point. And if we can remedy it another way, taking down the gate or some other way to encourage flow, I think that might help us all.
If I could comment.
Absolutely.
I believe everything you said. In fact, we made both myself and my partner made another trip down there today and said, let's look at this again. It bears a study, because it's not, obviously there's safety issues, but there's, for the quality of the project, it's an issue. So we have to be careful on all those points, and we would really look forward to working with the planning group this week, if we could possibly do it, to discuss how can we kind of achieve everybody's goals here. And our goal is safety, just like yours.
Okay.
So we welcome the conversation.
Well, very well said, and we appreciate that. Any other questions for the applicant? And then I'm going to have to ask Mr. Bentley one more time if there's any other questions for Mr. Bentley.
Hey, Keith, did you have another question?
No.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. At this time, we'd like to ask if there's anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to this application. We do ask that you come one at a time, state your name and address for the record, and sign the sign-in sheet at the podium. All right. Let the record reflect there's no public comment for this application. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion. Mr. Bartlett.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve zoning request Z20-006. Yep. Is that right? Yes, it is. Rezoning
Yes.
from NS to RM10, conditional for the development of 10 single-family attached townhomes at a density of 9.3 units per acre.
We have a motion to approve. Mr. Bartlett, do we have a second? Mr. Seagraves, we have a second. All in favor, please vote. And Mr. Bentley?
Hey, Keith, we have a motion to approve the zoning request. What's your vote?
I vote in favor.
So your application is approved 6-0. Gentlemen, good luck with your plan. Yes, sir, Mr. Sams. All right. The next item on our agenda is item 2020-300. This is zoning request Z20-009, rezoning from R20 Cobb County to RDA conditional for the development of 2 single-family detached homes at a density of 5.88 units per acre. This is 0.34 acres in land lot 632, also known as 2791 Matthews Street. McBev 1 LLC is the applicant. Mr. Staubs, the background, please.
Thank you. This is rezoning case Z20-009. Applicant is McBev 1 LLC. Your recommendation will go to City Council on September 21st. This is the zoning vicinity map. Subject property is 2791 Matthews Street. It's about 0.34 acres. It's in the unincorporated Cobb County currently with the zoning of R20. Applicant is requesting to annex into the city with the proposed zoning of RDA conditional. Currently it has one older house on the property, and they want to subdivide it and to build 2 single-family detached residences. Future land use in the county is low-density residential, and it'll come into the city as medium-density residential, which is consistent with the other city properties. We did receive a non-objection letter from the county regarding the annexation. This is the proposed site plan. Again, currently it's one 80-foot lot, 80-foot wide lot. They want to subdivide it with the following building setbacks: front of 20 feet, which side 5 feet, rear 20 feet. They will be accessing from the shared driveway of Village at Williams Park. Their detention area will be in the front and the rear. And they will be dedicating right-of-way to make the right-of-way on Matthews Street consistent along that section of the road. Requesting the following variances: reduction of the front setback from 30 feet to 20 feet, and the minimum lot width from 50 feet to 39.93 feet. 40-foot wide lot is pretty narrow, but from staff's perspective, to get this county property into the city, to connect it to the adjoining subdivision, where it will become part of that whole development with the same look, have rear access driveways, garages, instead of one 80-foot wide lot in the county with a front entry garage. Staff believes this is a better outcome for the city. It's the same developer that's developed most of the properties on either side, so it'll have consistent architecture with those lots. These are proposed home elevations. Again, they'll be consistent with what's already there. The pictures of the subject property and the adjacent properties. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from R20 Cobb County to RDA conditional for the development of 2 single-family units at a density of 5.88 units per acre with the following conditions: 1, regarding the architecture; 2, requiring utilities to be underground; 3, making the developer responsible for any traffic improvements; 4, no debris shall be buried; 5, they'll be required to meet the city's tree ordinance; 6, requiring landscape plans to be signed by a registered landscape architect. 7, requiring all yards or common area to be sodded. And then 8, regarding the tree planting schedule. 9, the special conditions regarding the setbacks, front of 25 feet from existing right-of-way, side of 5 feet, and a rear of 30 feet. Minimum driveway width of 20 feet from the rear of the building to the private drive. 11, they'll be required to dedicate 10 feet of right-of-way along Matthews Street. 12, they'll be required to install curb, gutter, and sidewalk along the frontage. 13, they'll be required to expand Matthews Street roadway to meet the street width on either side of the development. 14, the maximum height of 35 feet. 15, they'll be required to meet fire access requirements. 16, water and sewer requirements. 17, stormwater management requirements. 18, binds them to the site plan submitted with the application, and then 19 regarding the elevations submitted with the application. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Staubs? Mr. Bentley, do you have a question for Mr. Staubs, or questions?
Hey, Keith, do you have any questions?
I guess I just have a question for clarification. I think Joey said this, but my understanding is that the 40-foot lot width is being recommended for approval by the staff here because of this uniqueness of this situation with the existing development and the 80-foot lot. So that wouldn't be a thing normally approved for RDA.
Yes. Correct. Generally, 40-foot wide lot would not be considered by staff, but given the special circumstances of this lot, being able to get it into the city and then have it be connected to the adjacent neighborhood is beneficial from our perspective.
Keith, do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bentley. All right, so Mr. Staubs, just so we're clear, the rear access driveways that they're getting is they're coming off of the existing rear access driveway of the property that is immediately to the north. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Village at Williams Park Phase 1.
And that's kind of just a little further explanation of what Mr. Bentley was asking there about the uniqueness of this development.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Staubs? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Staubs. At this time, we'd like to have the applicant come forward and tell us a little bit about the plan. Just as soon as we get this safe for you. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Planning Commission. And my name is Jim Beveridge, a partner with McBev One, and we were the developer of the Phase 1 5-unit single-family development known as the Village at Williams Park Phase 1. We're also affiliated company with the developer of the phase, what county called phase, or the city called Phase 3, which is 9 townhomes, 3 single-family homes. And this is an island that was attempted to be acquired in 2006 with the current development, but could not be acquired at that time. Finally, we were able to acquire it, and what we really want to do is take the Matthews Street and, for lack of a better description, make it consistent to the 2 adjacent developments that are on the north and the south, and the quality in the same manner. that we've done, you can see 5 single-family homes that sold fairly rapidly for around $500,000. These homes would be probably a little bit north of that, given it the time passage and inflation of building materials and home prices. And then the home immediately adjacent to the south sold for over $600,000, and 2 doors down, the home that is on the market for $589,000. The townhomes will be very attractive. I think you may have seen 4 of them are in the sheetrock stage. They are going to be in the high 400,000s. Very similar floor plans to the single-family homes. They have a unique feature, though, that they have rooftop decks, and the rooftop decks are very generous. They're about 700 square feet of rooftop deck. So where they lack a yard, they have some really nice outdoor space. And then on that same level, they also have another 300 square feet of heated and cooled area for an additional den, if you will. So we think that this island that currently exists in Cobb County needs to be annexed into the city of Smyrna and made more consistent with the street all the way from Walker all the way down to the car wash. And we think it's a great addition to the county, or the city, I'm sorry, and out of the county. And feel free to ask any questions, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Beveridge. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, Mr. Bentley, do you have any questions for the applicant, sir?
Hey, Keith, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have a couple of questions, actually. The first question I would ask is, did they consider building a single house on that property that would fit in?
We have. The price of the land would make it a Cobb County development, and the price of the land would justify about $1 million property in Cobb County, which seems to be, for us, seems to be excessive. It seems to be more in keeping with the city of Smyrna and $500,000 to $600,000 properties, but we could certainly do that. That is an option.
Any other questions, Mr. Bentley?
Keith, do you have your second question?
Yes, I would just like them to talk about I guess they're the bioponds or the stormwater ponds that are on the front of the property. I know they have them in the rear and the front. Could they kind of explain what they're going to do there in the front?
Yes, we've had some limited discussions, but we would like to make sure that the retention is in the rear only, and that it be done with an expanded rain garden for the rear lots, for the rear of the lots. What's somewhat troublesome in the first phase of the development is we had a retention pond for the rear yards, and we believe and we think the hydrology is going to work out with staff's approval, where we can do a rain garden for both of these in the rear of the lots only.
Any other questions, Mr. Bentley?
Keith, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Bentley. Any other questions for the applicant? Every now and then somebody's question, pops up another one. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Beveridge.
Yes.
All right. This is a public hearing. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to this application. Please come forward one at a time. Slow down, folks. Please slow down. Sorry. Little chairman humor. All right. Let the record show there's no public comment. All right. Mr. Bentley, we do not have any public comment. Would you like to make a motion, sir?
Yeah, yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve zoning request C-20-009.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Mr. Keith Bentley. We have a second, Mr. Victor Jones. All in favor, please vote. The application is approved 6-0. Thank you very much, and good luck with your project, sir. All right. The next item on our agenda is ordinance 2020-10. It's item ORD 2020-10. It is actually ordinance 2020-14 for the code amendments to section 402, 709, 710, 711, 712, and 716 to the city's zoning ordinance. Are proposed to add the definition related to automobile broker office and to list automobile broker office as permitted use within the limited commercial, office institutional, neighborhood shopping, general commercial, and central business district zoning districts. Mr. Staubs, the background, please.
Yes, sir. Over the years, first, automobile broker office is not listed as a permitted use in our zoning ordinance. So over the years, staff has had to make an interpretation about where this could be operated. We've had trouble enforcing this requirement because it's not listed as a permitted use. So we are looking to provide a definition in section 402 and then add it as a permitted use in limited commercial, office institutional, neighborhood shopping, general commercial, and central business district. We are proposing the definition as follows: automobile broker office, an office used by a dealer to provide the service of arranging, negotiating, assisting, or effectuating the purchase of a motor vehicle not owned by the dealer for another. No vehicle shall be allowed for sale, displayed, or stored at the location. The location may be used as an office only. The only vehicles allowed on the property shall be the employees and clients. Any exterior signs shall indicate automobile broker's office only. So what this would do is provide a clear definition so we can differentiate between automobile sales, which allows cars on the lots for sale, and where automobile broker is just an office. Again, we're recommending these go into the following zoning designations: limited commercial, office institutional, neighborhood shopping, general commercial, and central business districts. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Staubs? Mr. Bentley, do you have any questions?
Hey, Keith, do you have any questions regarding the automotive broker?
No, thank you.
I got one question. Does this mean if they had a facility that was, I don't know, 1,000 square feet, and they had an office and the ability to park the vehicle inside the facility, would that prohibit them? Would this definition prohibit them from that, or?
Yeah, nope.
No vehicles there, no matter what.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is what auto broker is a third party sort of
Okay.
liaison.
Got it. Well, I like the effort. All right. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in attendance that would like to speak now on their on this ordinance change, please come forward and do so at this time. You can come and speak in favor of or opposition to. Okay. There is no public comment on this ordinance change. So at this time, I would like to entertain a motion on ordinance 2020-14. Okay, Mr. Stobbs, can you come back to the microphone and start this whole process over again? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. Okay, I read it correctly the first time and then boogered it up by actually being able to read. So this ordinance change is 2020-10. If there's anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to ordinance 2020-10, please do so at this time. Let the record show there is no public comment on this change. And at this time, I would like to entertain a motion for ordinance 2020-10 and the changes defined therein. We have a motion to approve, Ms. Ostrega.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. No. I already accepted it. We have a second, Mr. Bartlett. I can't abuse him all night. Please vote on the ordinance change. And Mr. Bentley, your vote on this ordinance change 2020-10.
I vote in favor.
The item is approved 6-0. Is there any further discussion on any of the items tonight? Any comments from you, Mr. Stobbs? You've worked so hard tonight. Do you have some lemon juice and some honey for your vocals? I mean, no. Okay, Mr. Martin, anything from you?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. All right, the last item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 13th, 2020 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Are there any changes that need to be made to the minutes, or can we get a motion to approve as presented? Mr. Rice makes a motion to approve the minutes as presented. I got a second, Mr. Seagraves. Appreciate you guys being nice. And then all in favor of the minutes as presented, please vote to approve. We have 5 and Mr. Bentley.
I vote in favor.
The minutes are approved 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank everyone for coming. The fine officer that kept us safe, city engineer who fell asleep, and the rest of the city. I was just kidding. He did not fall asleep. That was just me having fun. This meeting is adjourned at 6:58 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Rusty.